Well, welcome everybody. We're going to go over managing complex sales transactions, or another word for it is intercompany, and just want to make sure, and how it affected Walbro. Our agenda today is, I'm going to tell you who I am and who Walbro is. I'm going to tell you some stories about what happened to us with our intercompany transactions. You know, the benefits we got, the challenges that we faced, such as that possibly has affected you guys, just like they did with us. And then how we went to 32 Soft, and today I'm going to challenge you guys because 32 Soft is amazing, and they will do complex transactions. They will come up with other ways of doing things. So first of all, I'm going to tell you who I am. I have a degree from Central Michigan University in business administration. I'm a longtime employee of Walbro, and I've held many positions within Walbro. My current position is a global business manager. And that's challenging right there when you say global. It's very interesting about meeting the different people around the world and getting to know them, listening to when they speak and how they talk to you, and trying to understand their problems. Because let's face it, if one company's having it, another company's having the same issue. And it could be within your same company. Right now, Walbro has been, or I have been, well, actually Walbro too, we're a QAD user since 1997, and we started with 7.1. And currently we're on QAD 2010, but starting next month or soon after, we're going to be implementing 2014 SE. One of the reasons why we're not moving towards EE is because right now we're concentrating on our own products, and I don't have the support from the staffs to go to EE, especially in the financial area, which requires with EE. But eventually we will be going to EE. But we're using a stepping stone to go 2014 first and then go to EE. And some of my hobbies are travel. And when I say travel, just to give you a little bit, I just came back from Egypt, and I got to put a plug in there for the Egyptians. And the reason why I got to do that is we went to Egypt, and everybody knows that it's unrest, but they keep you safe. And to tell you what you're going to get if you go to Egypt, we were on a cruise ship going down the Nile, and there was only 5 of us in my small little group. We had a private chef. So you can, you know, he comes in and says, hey, I can give you this, you know. So if you get a chance, you know, go to Egypt because they miss the Americans. That's what they told us. Then here, Japan. I happened to be there when they had the cherry festival, cherry blossoms. And that is just gorgeous. And then here, another company, this is in Thailand. And for Thailand, they have the place where my company is, have a sanctuary of truth. And I tell you, Indiana Jones, eat your heart out, because this was all made out of wood, and it was just gorgeous. And these are things that you get to do when, you know, you travel. But you guys aren't here to hear about me traveling. You're here to know about our transactions. Just briefly, who is Walbro now? Well, Walbro, we are maker of fuel systems and engine components for weed whackers, chainsaws, snowmobiles. And we're headquartered in Tucson, Arizona. And we have 2,300 employees worldwide. We're ISO certified. And our manufacturing facilities is United States, Mexico, Japan, Thailand, and China. we are a preferred supplier for the engine management field. And like I said, this is some of our products. You know, we have lawnmowers, carburetors, weed whackers, you know. In fact, some of the engineers, I kind of envy them because they'll go on ski jets out in the lake and they'll come back and they'll have, you know, sunburn around their face, and you can see they're like the raccoons because they're out, you know, testing our products out on the water. Some of our customer base, again, is, you know, it has to deal with the lawn and garden, you know, the Ryo beans, Home John Deere, you know, that's just some of our customers. And this is a great slide here because this kind of shows you where our manufacturing locations are. And this is important because I'm going to be talking about, you know, the United States, or specifically Mexico dealing with Japan, and also Thailand dealing with China, and the difficulties that I came across. More about Walbro. This is just a quick little thing. We're in 29 countries, and you know, we made lots of carburetors and ignition modules, but enough about this kind of stuff. Let's go to why you're here. Walbro had some challenges. And dealing with our challenges, we had the time zone between the plants. You know, when you deal with Mexico, when you're dealing with China, you're dealing with Thailand, you know, you have a lot of different time zones that you got to deal with. And you got to be there so that you can communicate. It's all about communication, you guys. And the languages. You know, you got Japanese, you got Chinese, you got Thailand, you got Spanish. And then we also have time constraints about, we at Walbro, we are lean. So if we're so lean, there's not enough time in the day to do data entry. And that's the biggest part. And I got to ask you guys, how many people deal with Japan? Does anybody deal with them? Okay, you know, they're hard to change, aren't they? They don't want to change. You know, they don't want to change, and you sit there and you go in a meeting, and I got to ask you, this has happened to you. You go in a meeting and you're explaining a procedure and how to do something, and you see them nod. Did you guys experience that? Okay. You know what I experienced? That's the first time they did that to me. The second time I showed up with one of these tools that we're going to talk about today, specifically, I'll tell you, it's a purchasing tool. And we got them in the room, and I showed them how to create purchase orders within seconds by putting it in a spreadsheet, hitting a button, and it creates it just like that. Then it goes and it emails the purchase order. And all of a sudden it got quiet. And then I went through it again because, you know, in Japan, the language barrier, and I heard them go, oh, oh, they got it. They wanted it. They wanted the tools. So I was one of the first people in my company to make a change in Japan. You know, nobody can make it. We've had managers on top of managers go in and they tried to do something. Nothing ever got done. They kept on doing the same thing the same way, even though everybody nodded. They didn't get it. They really didn't get it. Another problem that we have with the plant communication issues. Does anybody deal with China? Same people, okay. Well, you know how China takes a week and a half off for the year, for a brand new year, the new year, the China New Year, they take a week off. A week and a half, I think it is. Well, what we experienced at Walbro is, here we are that Mexico had to deal with China, and they were buying from China, And China didn't tell them that they were going to be gone for a week and a half. So here in Mexico, sending them the orders and stuff, and got no reply for a week and a half. Here, once they come back, they were overloaded. You know, then that caused everything to be backed up because they were on holiday for a week and a half, and so therefore they were late on their sales orders, or, you know, to satisfy the customer. And for us, it made a big difference. And the reason why it made this big difference is because we're in the lawn and garden, so our heavy season is February to make sure we can satisfy the springtime. You know, and so by them not communicating, that was just a headache for us. Also, another issue when I'm talking about, like I said, that week off. So what does it cost when you're backed up in your transactions, you're off a week and you need to get it back to Mexico? First thing you're going to do is you're going to airship the transactions, aren't you? Or, excuse me, airship your product. So that's lost revenue. And Walbro looked at how much air freight we were doing between our own companies that it made a difference. We said, how can we, you know, that's lost revenue. And let's face it, if you could go to your finance guy and if you have millions of dollars of air freight, say, I can save you, you know, they're going to listen. You know, they're going to want to know why. You know, and like I said, for us in Walbro, we our internal suppliers, 60% in Thailand, 20% in China, and 40% in Mexico. We have 3 rules when we're implementing products, or excuse me, when we're implementing a system. And 3 rules are: don't go backwards, don't do anything stupid, and make it easy. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's that saying, you know, keep it simple, stupid. But this is a little bit more oomph in it, if you ask me. Because let's face it, when we went to Japan and when we solved their issue with creating purchase orders, we didn't go backwards. We made it easy, and we didn't do anything stupid. So the first thing we did is, like I said, how can our plants communicate more effectively for the supply chain? Because like I said, they were doing internal transactions. So our solution is that we went, and I went online, I Googled loaders at 32 Soft. And I noticed that they had this loader called EMT. And what this did is that it took your purchase orders, so we can take our purchase orders in Mexico, then it would hop over to the Japan database, and in Japan create the sales order. So we linked our sales orders and purchase orders, even though that our systems are not all in one box, and they're not in one database. We have, in North America, we have 5 domains, but China has their own, Japan has their own, and Thailand has their own. And one of the reasons why we struggle to go to the cloud right now is because our companies are in small little towns. We're not in Tokyo, we're not in Beijing, you know, we're in small little towns. So the first thing we're gonna do, we thought, okay, hey, we want to make things simple for our users. So we created a browse. And what this browse does is I'll look at our MRP, and let's, you know, when you guys are in supply chain, you want to create your purchase orders. So what do? You go to your MRP, and what we did is that we set it up. So this is what we're going to be buying. And this is just an example, and you can see here there's 2, 4, 7. You know, this is just a snapshot of, you know, we're gonna create 7 purchase orders. So what we do with this is we cut and paste it, and you've seen in that browse we had open fields. Well, this is why we had open fields, so that we could cut it and we paste it into an Excel loader. And within one click of a button, we created the purchase orders. It assigned the next purchase order number, loaded successfully, and the way we worked with 32Soft, we set up email addresses that within 5 seconds, wham, the suppliers got the POs, and it was simple. We want to enable our users. And when we enable our users, then that makes them more productive. And then they can concentrate on our pricing, or maybe on quantities for pricing. You know, maybe a different way of getting the product to us. We don't want our buyers spending 10 minutes to create the PO by hitting enter, enter, enter. Oh, got to enter supplier, and going on. So this is the first step. Mexico created the purchase order within seconds. From there, this EMT loader that we have has what's called the dashboard. And these are all the purchase orders on this side, and then we had sales orders on this side. And we can see that when a PO was exported to Japan, then if it was exported, it got a sales order number. And you can see down here, we have, it's not exported. So what the buyer does is he puts a little yes. That's it. Yes, I want you to go to Japan, I want you to create a sales order. So they went to Japan, it created the sales order, and then after it creates the sales order, you can go back to the dashboard, and then you can look here, like I said, this is the purchase order side, this is the sales order side. You got the sales order, the quantity that was ordered, whether it's allocated, quantity shipped, and then the item number. We also then did color coding. And the reason why is because the buyer needs to communicate and look at the sales order, and sometimes there can be issues. And if we go through and we color coded it, and you can see it right up here, the color coding and what it means. The green is what has been shipped. So if I'm in Mexico and I know that Japan got the order and they shipped it, it's on the boat, it's going to turn green. And this green will say, hey, yeah, we shipped them. And you can't see it, but there's a date here. And they can see when the order is going to come internally. The next one is blue. This is really, there's a difference there in quantity. Now, let's say, and this is the biggest thing that we did at Walbro. The buyer is control of the sales order. Japan cannot change that sales order without talking to Mexico first, because the whole idea of this is to satisfy your customer. And so even though we're internal, for Japan, the customer is Mexico, but for Walbro, the customer is out of Mexico. We need to satisfy the customer. If you don't satisfy the customer, you're not in business. Bottom line, you got to make the customer happy. So if Japan says, hey, I got 25 in stock, but you need 50. So that's why the quantity, and sometimes what they'll do is still with the Japan, is that they may have to put the 25 in there, that hey, we can ship 25 to you, but we can't do 50, so, you know, there'll be partial quantities here and stuff like that. So they had to deal with it. So what does that mean? It forced them to communicate. And not only that, is that now too, because when they were going on vacation, they had to negotiate when they can make that shipment. Because Japan has to tell Mexico when they can ship the product. And so they would put that on here, yes, I can ship you the product, or no, you can't. I can't have the product. Then they would mean they would airship it. But they would do some negotiation between them, is what they did. And the red means the sales order is past due. And look, when you don't, so the goal here is to have no red. But being in purchasing, you need to know when that product's going to be in so you can make it, so you can go up the chain on that. So that's why red means, hey, you better do something. Some action is forced to be taken. So what was our results? Well, our results are when we linked the purchase orders with the sales order, it forced the communication between the plants. They met, they would find a time, and usually it's the end of Mexico's day, the start of Japan's, and they would talk for half an hour on each line item. And they would discuss when they could ship. Well, or, hey, we got to get approval for air shipment, because we found out without the air shipments, we gained a lot of revenue because we didn't realize how much was being done, being air shipped. We eliminated the manual entry. Now, I got to tell you guys, too, with the sales order, this is EMT where in Mexico, they create the sales order, the purchase order, which creates the sales order in Japan. We also gave Japan the sales order loader, and what we did is that they would get orders from Thailand, and they would give them a file. So we took it that we went out and took their file and then implemented it, and they really liked it. So it ended up too, we're eliminating the data entry. That's what 32Soft is good for. They look and find ways of taking your data and getting it in there without very little manual entry. Users are used to dealing with spreadsheets. They like it. They like these spreadsheets, and it makes it easy. Back to the 3 rules. Don't go backwards. Don't do anything stupid. And make it easy. That's the whole point of this. And we challenged 32Soft a lot. We had an issue. I can't say enough of that to challenge them to come up with your ideas. So we got shortened data entry time, we lowered the air shipments, and we increased our revenue. Basically, that's what we did. And then on top of that, we looked at other ways that we could use loaders to get data in. We looked at our sales team. Our sales team, we were finding out that it was taking 3 months to get a sales quote to the customer. 3 months, So what we had decided to do is that we went and talked to 32Soft and say, hey, we got this bill of material. They have a bill of material loader. So I don't have it today. You can maybe stop by and get one. We were able to add parts, delete parts, put in pricing, looking at the structure. And now we went from 3 months to 2 weeks, or maybe even a week. All because a lot of times you're always being challenged. I challenge you to look different ways. Where's your non-valued areas? That's what we found out in our company. We're always looking for better ways to improve. So I tell you, you can improve your company by using 32Soft's tools. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Olena, and she's going to tell you more about what they can do.
Thank you. I'll just add to what Judy told you. I had the honor to work with Judy and Walbro on making Walbro's business process smooth, reliable, and efficient with help of 32Soft tools and, most importantly, the QED system. I've been working with QED for more than 18 years and had an opportunity to learn it from various angles, including database administration, systems implementation, business process gathering and mapping, and of course, as a regular user. And I learned a lot during these years, but my most valuable work experience that I really cherish is working with people like Judy to find a solution to challenging issues. And there is a lot of opportunity in QED to find a solution to the issues, I would say. But of course, my opportunities would be, and my learning abilities would be limited without help of my colleagues at 32Soft. I joined 32Soft more than 10 years ago, and since then I learned a lot from my colleagues and most importantly from our clients. And we now helping customers around the world and provide them with plug-and-play solution to various business processes within QED. We also try to share what we learned with other QED users on our free monthly webinars. So if you'll ever have time, we'll be really happy to see you there. They're always free, and we try to keep them really short, so you won't feel bored. And as I said, I'm really happy and proud with the results of the Walbro project. They achieved what they were looking for. I'd like to say that there are many areas in QED. They have huge opportunities in building smooth and efficient processes. Some of the areas, for example, QED EMT functionality, might look too complex, too challenging, or too demanding on resources to implement. But again, there is a lot of potential. What QED EMT functionality allows you to do, it allows you to take customer sales order, translate it automatically into purchase order, and then transform it into the sales order on supplier side. And with QED EMT functionality, you can track status and monitor your orders through their full life cycle. We, as Judy showed, developed an easy, efficient, and very reliable way to monitor and manage those sales orders with the dashboard and a lot of functionality that is behind the scenes. For user, it just looks like one button: transfer, receive, create. And we're using standard QED EMT functionality in background. We just make users, give them easy access to the data. We let them see what you have there, because again, you can store a ton of data in QED, and you just need to find a way to efficiently use them. Of course, and you know it from your own experience, every project implementation has its own challenges, and there were plenty of challenges with Walbro, but Walbro was using Six Sigma approach to improve their business process. They went through the cycles of feedback and analysis, and were able to turn their challenges, their issues, into additional benefits. Just to give some examples, they had different item numbering structures in their databases. Formerly, each database was maintaining their own cross-references and everything was right, but when we started to implement this, we found out that, in reality, it's not all nice and smooth, but we were able to develop a mechanism to see those errors ahead of time and react quickly and promptly. So an add-on benefit was that we basically cleaned up the items and cross-references without putting any additional efforts into it. Another challenge was we need to look for a way how we can minimize that air freight issue. users in China were spending a lot of time trying to decide, okay, today I'm shipping through sea, today I'm shipping through the air, and there was not enough communication. So Walbro came up with an idea, and we were able to implement the auto assignment of shipment dates based on the certain number of rules and available options. So every time they created purchase order and were ready to transfer it to China to become a sales order, system automatically picked up, okay, this is my lead time, so these are my shipment days. Let's say I ship on Tuesday or Thursday only, and I can air freight on Friday only. So the system picked up the dates for them. It saved a lot of time. They still could interfere, they still can change, override it, but it saved a lot of time for people in China who had to manage all those dates. They spent every day a lot of time just to review their ship dates and due dates and decide on the freight terms. So as I mentioned, Six Sigma, it's all sounds, when you look at it, it all sounds so like technical, but with Walbro example, and Judy just told you it's how all was happening in real life. They were able to define their business process using end user requirements.
Is that screen supposed to be changing?
I know, that's what I asked.
No, sorry. It's not supposed to change. They were able to define their business process using end user requirements, measure and collect relevant data, analyze results, and established control over current and future state of their process. And future state is what Judy showed. It's just a part. They implemented intercompany portion of the whole business process, what they plan to add in the future, and they can, with this approach to the process, they can do it with minimal effort. They plan to add actual customer sales orders that come and be able to extend the whole process. So when customer sales order comes, it becomes PO, and then it becomes sales order in China or Thailand side, and then it goes back with all the shipment and quantity details. So it was real honor to work with Judy on this project, and I'm always very happy when customers are happy and when they most important, achieve exactly what they were looking for, and even more in this case. And while working on this, we also discovered some other areas of improvement, and if Judy has time, she can also mention some other tools that she was using and how they were able to improve other processes. I just only want to say that we love our customers. It's what you work for, and it's such a satisfaction when you see someone getting successful in implementing and reaching their goals. Thank you, Judy. If you want to mention something about other processes, that's the next slide.
I just wanted to say Walbro took advantage, and to give you some of the things that we did, that we use many of 32 soft loaders, and I can't list them all because we got quite a few of them, but I wanted to tell you guys the savings that we've seen. We purchased the forecast loader, and Mexico saved 4 hours a week. China received 2 hours a week with the forecast loader. And the forecast loader could be, you receive forecast, whether it be an 8:30 from your suppliers, or from your customers, and you want to put it in a QAD, easy load again. Very simple. And when we bought any loader from 32 Soft, we put it throughout the whole company. We just didn't leave it in North America. We didn't leave it in Mexico. So some of the challenges that we have, I remember talking with Christian, their coworker, in Japan, because Japan was the only site that we have that has the Japanese language. And when we put the Japanese language in to create, I think it was the purchase order, the pricing would not come through. And we gave it to Christian. They're great debuggers, and we found out what it was. It had something to do with the profile, with the language of Japanese language in there. We have the subcontractor, besides using the EMT tool, we just have a normal purchase order creator. And Japan saved 2 hours there, Mexico another 2 hours. The order entry, Japan another 3 hours weekly. Their ship to address loader, we had to standardize. You know, sometimes we were so young, I call that probably more me or whatever, when you're implementing QAD, back when we had to put the country codes in, you think we would have thought down the road and thought about ISO and dealing with the country codes. Something simple about installing all those country codes in there. You get a loader, you fix it, load them right up. Item master, I tell you, my supply chain guy, I don't know how your supply chain guy goes. Judy, I want to change this group of parts, the days, the manufactured days, and you can get a loader and he has a certain parts and it loads right in instead of manually going in one at a time and changing them. Sometimes what you can even do is take it from a browse, the area parts and create, so we use the item master downloader a lot. We also have a cost loader, and we created a new element. We didn't know how to get the new element in. We went to 32Soft and said, hey, we got this new element we want to use. They helped us, and our finance team worked over the holidays at Christmas time. And so they don't want to be at work no longer than anything. They want to be home with their families. It's Christmas time. And so by putting in this cost element through a loader, it loads it right up. They can check it. They can see it. It saves time. It's all about saving time. And we also had a work order buffer because we implemented TOC, theory of constraints, and we came up with our own loader. And so we challenged 32Soft and said, hey, and this was running our plants. Every day the manufacturing teams would get together and say, what work order are we going to work on? And by having this work order buffer loader, we even color coded it. So they would run the 32Soft tool and they would find out what the status of all the work orders are, whether it's late, whether it's early, whether they were doing it too early. All of this stuff that can be done. There are a lot of things that you think of, these are things outside of QAD, using QAD data, So I guess, we got other loaders, but the main thing is, challenge them. I challenge you to think outside the box. Where can you find non-value added activities in your company? If you come up with them, maybe there'll be a raise for you. You gotta be thinking, guys. Because if you can save the company money, you're gonna be there for that promotion. You'll get extra raises. So I guess that's all I gotta say. Is there any questions for us? I guess with questions answered, I like the next question. Take a look, identify your opportunities. And what is that one part two, strive? Anyway, is there any questions for us?
I have a question. I was asking a question. Is a loader actually doing a similar QAD?
Yeah, the background is almost the same. It's similar to SimLoad. We call QED function and feed data to QED, but we are not using QED SimLoad function. So we The backend of the loaders is written in progress, so before loading any data into QED, we do the validation because we can check, okay, is this a valid item, is this a valid creditor, and things like that. So, and if it's not a valid item or by some reasons if that transaction cannot be completed, we show the error to the user and user knows exactly what it is. And like in Simulot. Also, it's you know whether data was loaded or not. You don't need to go and find, okay, this portion was loaded, so let me cut it off and load the rest. So if there is an error and you didn't fix it, nothing gets loaded, so you won't be able to get bad data into your system. So, and because by using this approach, we also do another validation because everything goes through QED functions, standard QED function. It's like you go into purchase order maintenance and key in data. So if there are some obstacles on the way, like QED issues shows you error message, and then we can catch that error message and show it to the user. So we won't commit the transaction, we'll roll it back. So no bad data can go into QED.
And also, 32Soft will do the checking for you. I'll give you an example. In the work order loader that we're going to purchase, in the work order, you know how like it's, what is it, an E or F or, you know those darn codes? And certain codes, you can't modify it. Okay? Well, there was one time where we were thinking, hey, maybe we should modify this. And no, Christian says, no, you can't, because that's breaking QAD rules. So, you know, they will keep you honest, I guess, if that's what I want to say. So you don't destroy your database.
But I guess the bottom line, you are running like the order maintenance screen or the PO screen.
Yes, at the background. So it's the same way SIM works. QED calls the function that does the maintenance for work order and feeds input parameters. So the same we call that function and we feed input parameter, and then that function expects like certain input parameter at that time. But it's all at the background, and if there is any error, there is a feedback. And like in SIM mode, there is no feedback. You need IT to tell you this is the error is. While here, the biggest benefit is it's all in the user's hand, even with the simplest loader, item master upload. If they can't load it because that's incorrect item type, they will know it right away. They will see highlighted item and it will say incorrect item type. So for those companies who use IT to load their like static data items or cost set, that is a huge saver because they free IT to do some other stuff. And also users, they also less dependent on IT. When they need to update their cost, they can update their cost. When they need to change planning parameters, they can change their planning parameters, and they don't need. Plus, they can see everything they have, so they know what they can change. It's a convenient and reliable interface in terms of the validation. Again, we are trying to keep you safe. So we have 3 levels of validation, and if you suspect, if QED will show that, okay, there's an error, it can go through, we'll roll back the whole set of data that you was trying to upload. So you don't need to go, okay, did this PO went through or not? Did this item was updated? Was this item updated or not? So that's the point. Plus, it has the standard QED authentication. So if you are not QED user, even if you can get the template, Excel template, it will ask you, okay, tell me your password to QED. You can tell the password. It says, no, you can't process purchase orders because you are not purchase orders user. You don't have enough access in QED for that. So that's the core principles of the loaders. And then we just try to make them more informative. So we get all data together. Even, for example, when you create purchase orders, we can show you your current stock, all that information in the same place. Or when you do the planning, we can show you the what's your existing orders, all in that place. So we try to build like a complete analysis tool now that you don't need to switch between multiple screens. You can get all information you need at the same spot.
I had a couple of questions. First one is, does Walbro own the EMD DRP module link from QED? Because in some versions of QED, that's a separate module license.
Actually, we don't,
Okay.
so we don't.
It's actually part of it. It's part of it.
In their version, it's part.
Their version.
It's
Oh, there is part of the
yes,
version?
in their version, it's they have.
EMT is part of the standard release.
Yeah.
DRP is part of the DRP.
Yes.
EMT is part of the standard release.
And the other question I had, in the loader you showed us for the inter-region orders, is that one spreadsheet talking to multiple databases?
Yes.
Domains?
Yes, yes. And it's interesting, like Alina was telling when she was saying the problems we had for the finances, like our first 5 digits of the part number were correct, but they would put like a -JP because for costing reasons. So we had to use the customer cross-reference, what is that, 116 or something, customer cross-reference. You have to build the customer cross-reference, you got to build the supplier cross-reference for it to link and to come up with the correct pricing.
So if I'm looking at the sample you showed me, that
Yeah.
may be Mexico's version of the sheet, the Japan or China that look at the exact same sheet, or did they have their own document?
Well, each site who started the purchase order has their own, okay? So I have multiple, like we have Japan dealing with Mexico, I have Thailand dealing with Mexico, I have Thailand dealing with China, and I have Thailand dealing with Japan. So, but what they do is they have, each has their own spreadsheet to go over. We didn't, they could put it down there, but because it's one spreadsheet, all they have to do is change the domain. And it's how they sign in that they could get it. So they only have one spreadsheet, so it's the data pulling down.
Yeah, so it's one spreadsheet, there is a selection criteria. So like, at the beginning, it's one spreadsheet. They just send it to their users, and if they want to, they can save it to their own version, but it's the same spreadsheet, it talks to the same backend code, and the selection criteria is different. For example, in Mexico, there is a certain code for China as a supplier. So, okay, show me my dashboard for this supplier code, and they get all the orders they have for this supplier, which is Japan for Mexico, and they will see everything. The same template, when it ends up in Thailand opens it and they say, okay, show me this supplier, and supplier is Japan code, and they see everything. But for users' convenience, it's an Excel spreadsheet, so they can add some notes there, they can save it as they
more of
want.
the viewpoint where instead of the supplying plant tells me I don't have enough, and they can't ship me enough parts. So is that data being pulled from their database?
Yes.
It's not being entered directly? in the
No,
spreadsheet.
that's put from their database. They download their purchase orders and then they ask, okay, show me what's the status based on the information in China or in Japan. And then that's when all the information is pulled from another database and compared and color coded. So, and if it happens really quickly. So if China updated, like shipped some of the orders, the next hour when they will update it, they will see statuses change.
I got to tell you this.
Thank you.
Japan got down on Mexico because they had their MRP running, and they said, when you create the sales order, you mess up our MRP. So they told them, you must get all those purchase orders created by a certain time. And it's interesting because, like I said, it did force them to communicate, and it did. It helped them, actually helped Japan, because they could see the purchase orders and they didn't have to enter them in, the sales orders in. So it kind of even made our processes run faster. Any other questions?
This 32 soft plan for EE.
Alex?
We do have customers on EE, more actually customers.
Or one of them. Tom Old in the dealer industry. You're Alex?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Not the financials. So data loaders are working for this particular one. or any other loaders except for financial loaders, they work in both. And we do have more customers on enterprise versus standard. So it's more and more converting to enterprise, but not on financial side.
For example, this tool would work on EE because it doesn't directly affect financials. It affects financials by creating sales transactions, right?
There are some hooks though. You'll find that out.
And the thing is, with this tool, what's nice is, let's say you have one QD version in Japan and another QD version in Mexico. So it's configurable, so you don't necessarily need to be on the same QD version. It pulls data from one place, pulls data from another place, and that shows you combined summary that you can use for your analysis and decision making.
We happen to be, whatever we do in one plant, we try to be standardized, and we take it to the other plants.